Welcome to the Path to Leadership, a podcast style event where trailblazers share their journeys from humble beginnings to powerful positions. This inspiring and motivational conversation series is designed for anyone dreaming of a leadership role, seeking mentorship, or craving insight on how to forge their own path. Whether you're just getting started or ready to rise, this event will educate, empower, and energize your goals. Your path to leadership starts with a warm welcome to Gina Cano, Senior Director of Strategy and Global Modernization at Dell Technologies. And that way, hopefully that'll stop it. Did that stop it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. See, I try to be all fancy and do something fun with the music and, best laid plans, right?
It was fun.
As you talk about leadership, you got to be able to pivot and be agile and adjust. So it is what it is, man. It is what it
It
is.
is what it is. Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to start off by doing a little introduction as to who we're speaking with today. So, Gina Cano's Senior Director of Strategies and Global Modernization. Did I say that right?
You
At
did.
Dell
You did.
Technologies. Awesome. Her story is anything but typical. She rose from, and this is her words, from the support queue to the boardroom,
Yeah.
becoming a proud and powerful Latina voice in an industry where few look like her. Early in her journey, Dell Latino ERG chose to represent her or have her represent the company at a major global tech event, recognizing the spark and the impact that she carried from day one. Gina often says she's not your average corporate Latina, and she lives that truth boldly. I've seen her do it, I've heard her speak about it. She brings heart, purpose, and conviction to her work, whether she's writing about sustainability and inclusion or challenging the status quo to make tech more equitable. In her new book, Unapologetically You, she shares what it really means to rise while underrepresented, to use your voice anyway, and to break through barriers that were never built with you in mind. So today we're going to get deeper, not just about her role, but about her journey and the values that shaped who she is. So welcome back to Dig, Gina. How
Thank you for
are
having
you?
me. I'm good. I'm living the dream or nightmare. Depends on what time of day you ask me. Right now I'm in the dream part because I'm getting to chat with all of you. About
Uh,
an hour ago, I was like, what the heck is happening and what are y'all doing and how do we make money? So it just depends on what time of day we chat.
yeah, totally understand that. Nothing that a good glass of wine or a bottle of bourbon can't fix anyway. Awesome, awesome.
Not wine or bourbon. It is
I know.
energy drink.
So I've chosen my drink of choice right now is a cup of tea because one of the events that we also do is called Dig the Tea, tea
Nice.
meaning the truth. And so anytime we bear some truths on this, I might take a little sip for
Yeah,
representation. Just saying.
that's all I know how to do is speak the truth. Sometimes it gets me in trouble, but they'll get over it. So it works out fine.
Oh my goodness. So we're going to dive on in. I want them to learn a little bit about you.
Okay.
And I'd like to start in the beginning. I would like to hear a little bit about your early life in Beeville, Texas.
Yeah.
Know what influences you had culturally, your family, community that helped to shape you the most.
Yeah. Beeville, Texas, very few people know where Beeville is. So to give you an idea of where Beeville is, think on the map. If you know where Corpus Christi is, right? If you know where Corpus Christi is, we're about maybe 45 minutes north of Corpus Christi is where my small hometown of Beeville, Texas is from. So Corpus Christi, San Antonio, right in the middle is where Beeville is. In fact, most people probably know about Corpus now because of Selena, and a new documentary just dropped about her. I'm kind of anxious to watch it. I haven't seen it yet, but that's where I'm from, Beeville, Texas. And when I think of my small town, population was 13,000, and it hasn't gone up too much since then. It's still a relatively small, blue collar kind of environment, right? Where agricultural was kind of like the biggest piece there, or you would work at one of the two prisons that we have there. So pretty high tech stuff if you think about it, right? We have our schools, we have our local grocery stores, the Walmarts and stuff. But when you think about when I was growing up and I'm in this small town and I'm looking around my sphere of influence, there wasn't a lot that I could say, hey, I want to be like that. But what I did have were my parents, specifically my father. He has his own construction company. So at a very early age, all I've ever seen and all I've ever aspired to be was to be in charge like my dad, right? Because he had his own business. And so for me, that's what success looked like. That is what good and awesome was, is I wanted to be like my dad, right? I never really knew what that meant or where that would take me. I just, at an early age, that's what I saw was success. And then on the flip side, I saw my mom of her being a homemaker and really following a traditional kind of, Latina kind of path of raising us. So seeing my father being that maker of dreams come true because he was working in the morning. I wouldn't get to see him because he left for work so early. Coming home late at night, I probably really get to see him because it was so late at night. But then having the steadiness of my mom. So that was really my sphere of influence growing up, and that is where my role modeling and shaping came from, is from my parents, because that was my constant steady. Because everything else around me was, well, just your regular, typical small town, blue collar kind of livelihood.
Yeah, that I find that a lot of people are obviously influenced by their parents. Did you have like a tribe around you as well growing up that maybe you relied on, people that were maybe in your inner circle that were outside of your immediate family?
You know, I'd like to say I did, but I also am realistic that I didn't. Let me give you a little bit more of what I mean by that. Is growing up in the neighborhood, I had all my friends. I had everybody that I looked at and I hung out with and stuff. But I also didn't unnecessarily fit in to a specific group, if you will. So it's not like I hung out with all of the jocks or I hung out with all, no, I hung out with everybody. So I had that piece. But if I look outside of my parents of where that other influence came in, there were friends that I still am very close to this day that I hung out with, and I still know. But could I say they influenced me? Not really. They shaped me, having relationships and connections. And yes, there was that level of influence. It was the folks around me, like my aunt, who I say is a big piece of really how I got my start, because she was the first one to leave the family nest, if you will, the small town of Beeville. My aunt
Mm.
Olga moved to Houston. She first lived in Dallas and she got married very young and had kids at a very early age and then moved to Houston. It was kind of on her own. And so I think deep down that is what I saw of, well, I want to be like my Aunt Olga, right? She left at an early age. She went off and made herself successful. She didn't graduate high school, but somehow she became this buyer for this company. And, she was working in the office, living
Человек.
in the big city of Houston,
Короче, я вообще не знаю, о чем это.
seeing, hey, everything good there? Um,
Yep.
so seeing that, right, I think my aunt was probably my biggest influence of things, right, outside of mom and dad. It would have been my aunt that I look to be like, hey, I see success because she was living in Houston, right? Which is a
Hmm.
big city compared to the small town of Beeville, Texas. So lots of friends that definitely shaped the relationship skills that I built and being able to figure things out, because we would build clubhouses and go outside exploring and riding our bikes. around the neighborhood. In fact, I would challenge all of you, and this is what I did with my own son. There was a TikTok that went through. Pull up the map of where you grew up, right? And I actually pulled up the map of Beeville, Texas, and it said draw a circle around everywhere you went without supervision. Mind you, we
Ooh.
had no cell phones. We had no form of communication. I had no idea how, if we ever ate. I don't even remember drinking water growing up, other than a water hose and stuff. I like circled the whole town of Beeville. That's what my friends gave me, and they influenced to going out and exploring and doing stuff, right? So those were kind of the influences outside of mom and dad.
Yeah, I remember those times. I tell stories about like I literally used to choose to walk to school versus taking the bus because even though it was still an hour walk to get there, it was an hour bus ride anyway. And me and my friends used to just explore unsupervised. And my parents just, I guess, thought we were in school and we made sure we got there, right? It was a whole
It
different type
was
of world
it's a
back
whole
then,
different
right?
upbringing that we went through. Now my son, he's 15. And if he goes like, a block outside the house, there's this like, where are you going? Is everything okay? And you have your phone, and I'm like, wait, we didn't have that growing up. It was, hell, there was a commercial that literally said it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? That's
Right.
where we grew up. So I guess that was part of my influence in shaping of who I am today is that we just really had to figure it out. That's what we had to go off of is like, figure it out. Okay, I will.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned that your aunt didn't go to college, correct? Like you said that
Correct.
she went through.
She didn't even
Um,
graduate high school.
she didn't even graduate high school.
Correct.
Was there anybody else in your circle that went to college, or how did you decide that was your path?
No, aside, I am the first one in both sides of my family to actually go to college. My aunt later on, one of my aunts on my dad's side did going to become a nurse and stuff like that. But when I think of when I was making this decision, there was nobody that I could say was, yeah, they were in college and they got a degree and they did that. It wasn't. And when you ask, well, what made you decide you wanted to go to college? Well, because that was what my family had heard or what we'd seen on TV and what we saw success as because those that were not Latinos, the white group in there that were the lawyers, the doctors, the pharmacists, they went to college. So by that rationale alone, I'm seeing that, my family is seeing that. So it was like, well, you need to go to college to be successful. Fast forward to where I'm at today, that's not necessarily the case, especially in the digital age that we're in. College just happens to be a path you can go on. But when I was young, my direct association was, well, they're successful because they've got these big houses and these fancy cars and they're respected. And I'm air quoting loosely here, right? Respected. Well, because they went to college. So that was the association I made. And we had nobody else to reference within our own family. So college was a decision I said I need to go do.
Yeah. And how was that experience for you?
Whew. So, first, deciding to go to college, I do mention this in my book and I write through it when I went and spoke to the high school counselor, right? Because, mind you, several family members above, throughout here didn't graduate from high school, my father included. He has an eighth grade education. My mom did graduate, but, she became a homemaker. And then my aunt Olga that I told you, she didn't graduate high school. So there wasn't a big success track record on just graduating from high school. So making it to high school is a huge milestone in my opinion, right? As I'm, 13 years old, I'm like, hey, I made it. I'm in high school. So I go and I talk to the counselor and I'm like, hey, I want to make sure I do it right, that I take the right classes so I could go to college. Because remember, for me, college meant success because that's what I saw around me who were not the blue collar workers to only have that counselor tell me I wasn't going to go to college, right? Like, why was I asking about it? Because that's, people like me with my background, the stereotype is we don't go to college. The expectation was that a young Latina like myself would get pregnant by the time I was a sophomore in high school and would drop out of school because that's what the stereotype and statistics would show. well, if you don't invest in helping me and you don't guide us, then yes, they're going to fall victim, whether you're Latina or not. Individuals who do not have guidance are going to have it. It just happens to be more so that the Latina and the Black and Brown communities fall into that trap. So the expectation already was that I was going to fail. The expectation was already that I was going to end up pregnant, on welfare, and just, absorbing and taking from the system, right? So the counselor didn't even want to invest time with me. So that was my very first rocky start into the college world, right?
And I can imagine a lot of people don't make it past that,
No, no,
right?
and the sad part is, Michelle, that that happens even today.
Mm-hmm.
In today, that every university that I go speak to, all of the different high schools that I've had an opportunity to talk to, any student I talk to, that still happens very much today, especially in the inner city and underrepresented communities. That happens all the time. There's just this belief that they're not supposed to succeed. And I do not want to get political, but if you see what's happening in our own country today with our own government, there is a huge effort to take away any opportunity for these communities that are already underserved to even have a fighting chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we were already starting behind the finish line, right? But that doesn't stop us, right?
Right.
Resilience is my strength, but my culture is my superpower. My culture is the only thing I know how to do is to make it. I don't know how to fail. So with that mindset, right? Even with the counselor telling me I wasn't going to go to college, that was like, all right, watch. I
Mhm.
often say, and those that know me, I say, I bet, watch. So I attempted to go to college, and I'm saying attempted because it really was an attempt, right? So I figured out how to get Pell Grant. Again, nobody helped me, but somehow I figured out how to get a Pell Grant. Through my academics, I was able to get some scholarships through that. And I signed up to take courses, which was an absolute nightmare in its sense. So I don't necessarily claim this on my track record of transcripts, but now as I go and I have my different speaking engagements, I say it with pride. I had a 0.57 GPA. I completely hosed it, man. Like I didn't know what I was doing. And I had Hosta, I see Hosta's image. She's like, damn, yeah, it was a 0.57, dude. It was absolutely this embarrassing. So that's why I don't claim it, but I do claim it because it was a learning lesson for me, right? So this was when I was in Beeville. There's a community college in my hometown of Beeville, right? So I attempted there. I'm like, all right, let's give it a whirl. And clearly that didn't work out. So I took a pause. I'm like, all right. Then when my journey takes me to Houston to get there, I attempted it again. Mind you, I'm saying attempted. I didn't have a lot of success the second go around. So then again, I decided to finally put all college attempts on pause for a little bit. And it wasn't until I think when I turned 26, 27 that I really said, okay, I need to get my act together. And I went full force. Then I went and got my associates, my bachelor's, and my master's, and I was able to go all the way through. But it was very, very rocky, Michelle. And I say a big piece of that was because I was traumatized by having that one counselor tell me I couldn't. Having that one counselor say I couldn't made me believe that I should never ask for help. Fast forward today, that is completely wrong. Ask for help because if you don't like that answer, you can go somewhere else, right?
Right.
That caused me to lose my Pell Grant. I lost the scholarships that I had. I wasted them, if you will. And so I ended up, getting student loans. I'll pay them back eventually. I'm doing the bare minimum. We'll get there eventually. It's like, hold on long enough, maybe I'll get forgiven too. Who knows? But I had to go that route and go down the path of getting myself in debt to achieve this. But I don't regret any of it. So while it was rocky, I learned so much. And I think, Michelle, this is helping me then go share my message with others to hopefully help them realize you can do it and hopefully not make the same mistakes that I've made. They're going to make some. Everybody's going to make mistakes, but hopefully not the same ones to end up with a 0.57 GPA.
Hey, sometimes it's about life lessons,
It
right?
is. It is. It is.
Yeah. So were you already working at Dell, or did you get that position after you got your degree?
So, again, my journey is unconventional to where I didn't get to have a traditional 4-year college or 6-year if I went for my master's, where I got to live in a dorm and do the student life. That wasn't the path that I got to go on. And I think that's the most important message that if any of you are listening and go share this with others, everybody's path is different. And that's what makes it an amazing thing because none of us need to have the exact path because that would be boring. My path afforded me the opportunity of when I moved to Houston that I got a job working at Best Buy. So I didn't have a technical background. Like I told you, growing up in Beeville, all I saw were construction workers, plumbers, and welders, and that's what I was around every day. And then if you did go to college, you became a teacher or maybe you went into criminal justice or, the privileged few, as I saw, got to be the lawyers and the pharmacists and stuff like that. Again, nobody liked me. So I went to Houston and, that part of the story will, on how I got to Houston, we'll get to that. But I get there and I get a job at Best Buy. And I know nothing about computers. I know jack about it. I thought the computer was the monitor. So I didn't know anything about it because I didn't have that training. I didn't have that stuff. But then when I got an opportunity to sell computers at Best Buy, then I started to find, hey, I'm digging this. I like this stuff. Then I started learning how to take them apart and put them back together. And that actually shaped me wanting to go back to college to say, okay, I need to learn about this. And so I got technical certifications, which then led me down the path of going to get my associates in science, and then I got my bachelor's in technical management, which then resulted in that. So I did all of that while I was working and going to school. So I finished my bachelor's and master's while I was at Dell. But I started way before then in the tech space in a call center with Jetronics. Then I went to Compaq, which turned into HP, and then I ended up at Dell. So it was kind of a off on left, right, up, down, pause, go, whatever. But I made it. I
You
made it. My
made it.
degree's hanging on the wall right now.
And you've been there for a long time. I think I saw over 21 years now that you've been
October, it made 21 years that I've been there, probably longer than most people on this call or will listen to this podcast have probably been alive. So
there.
so yeah, it's crazy to think that I've been there that long. I think probably the thing that is the coolest is while I've been there for 21 years, I haven't been doing the same thing. I've had a number of different roles and I've gone and tried different things, which I've continuously learned and evolved from it. But it's been an amazing journey. And because again, I've learned along the way and I have made a lot of mistakes, but I don't see them as failures. I just see them as it's someone that one of the counselors I met with at one of the events I was hosting, it's you don't fail. Fail is just your first attempt in learning. And when she told me that, I was like, damn, I like that. So I was like, I'm totally gonna trademark that, taking it, but it's not mine. But it's pretty cool to think that.
So, what is something that you had to unlearn in order to grow into your role today?
Ah, the unlearning of it's okay to ask for help.
Mm,
It's okay to seek out advice and guidance from others. If I think of my first, college experiences of how I failed miserably, and I've told you my GPA failed miserably twice, not once, but twice that I did this, completely screwing up and wasting money and taking extra classes because I refused to ask for help, right? All the way up to even getting my master's degree, I never asked for help. I did
mm.
all this on my own. And I probably paid more than I needed to for classes because I took more than I needed. And I would occasionally ask for help here and there to get guidance for this or make sure because of a prerequisite. But genuinely sitting down and asking for help and guidance, I didn't do. Now, as I look back on this and where my success really started to happen was when I let go of that belief that I had to do it alone and embraced the fact that I don't need to do this alone and I needed to build my community, my network, my tribe. When I embraced that, then the success started to come easier. And it's not that I wasn't doing less work or that I was expecting people to do things for me, but rather instead of me trying to figure this out on my own, I was able to tap into my network, reach out to my tribe, and get guidance of, hey, you should try this, or hey, look at that, and I didn't have to figure it out, which means I didn't have to take as long, which means I got to move a little bit faster. And then I got different perspectives of things that maybe I hadn't looked at. So that was the biggest thing I had to unlearn, Michelle, is that because I really was traumatized by that one counselor making me think for just a minute that I couldn't, that I refused to ask for any help. And again, it shaped who I am today, but if, any advice I can give to anybody, that it's okay to ask for help. In fact, I encourage it.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think so many of us, especially when we've grown up not feeling like you always fit in, we find it a little harder to ask
Oh,
for help
yeah.
because we are so used to doing things ourselves, right?
Especially when you're the
So,
only one that looks like you.
and that's what I was just about to say, right? So, if you are at this company, you don't see a lot of people that look like you around you. How do you find that tribe? Is that in your manager? Is that in your colleague? Like, how did you build that tribe?
Just like what you have right here, that employee resource group, that is a great starting ground, right? Because you're going to find folks that are like-minded, right? Or have similar backgrounds as you and stuff. So that kind of gives you that comfort of it. And I would even say early on in my career, I didn't take advantage of the employee resource groups because I was too busy. I was too busy doing stuff, right? I was like, man, you think this, I got to just work hard. If I just work hard, if I just put my head down and I just do the work, they're going to see what I'm capable of and I'm going to get No, that's not how that works. Not how it works. Not in this world. And so taking advantage of the employee resource groups was a great start in building that tribe, right? The other thing that I would say is recognizing that just because they don't look like you or have a similar background as you doesn't mean you can't learn from their experiences, because at the end of the day you will find we have more in common than may meet the eye, right? So
Mhm.
uh being able to first get that comfort, take advantage of employer resource groups, right? And if you're coming from, you had the opportunity to have the path of going to a 4-year college and doing that experience, it's just like a student group but in the corporate space, right? So
Right.
if you're in the corporate space, use an employee resource group. If you're a small business that you're listening to this podcast and you're like, but I don't have an ERG, well, there's the Chamber of Commerce that you can leverage and take advantage of, right? There are other groups that you could look at, like NISHIMBA, which is the I forget the acronym, but one of those, right? LULAC, or I mean, there's so many different ones that you can look at. The Black Networking, there's so many different groups that you can look through. So, but you got to do the work. I think that's another one, Michelle, that sometimes we think that the folks are going to come. No, if it
Mhm.
were that easy, everybody be doing it. You do have to do a little bit of work to go find and build your tribe.
Oh yeah. And I think that's a hard thing, right? Because especially in the corporate world, especially in this country, it's like it's always just like a go 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 mentality. It's like I don't have time for fill in the blank, right? If
Yeah,
I'm taking the time to do this, I'm taking it away from something else. So I think that is a big challenge with everybody.
yeah.
Um,
You
in
know what I'll say to
terms,
that, Michelle,
yeah,
real quick,
please.
is I had that mindset early on until I got pregnant with my son. And when I went on maternity leave and I came back from maternity leave, guess what? Corporate was still corporating with or without me. So remember
Mhm.
that. Corporate's going to corporate with or without you. The world's going to keep continuing on. So
Bring some tea to that.
find time for you, because it's going to continue with or without you. Because I thought I was so invaluable, Michelle. I thought that without me being there, without me working 24/7, 365, not going on vacations, not doing this and putting everything aside, put work first, that was, because they needed me.
Right.
I'm out for 4 months becoming a mom and spending my time with my son, that when I came back, corporate kept corporating. So remember that nobody is too busy. We have to find time, and the number one thing we need to invest in is yourself. So whether you're religious or you're spiritual, however that is, every one of these books say you need to give to 10%, right, to you, right? You have to give to you first, because if you can't take care of you, how are you going to take others, right? Hell, my favorite is RuPaul.
I
RuPaul
was just about
all
to
the
say
time.
that.
It's like if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else, right? So
Yes.
you got to give it to yourself.
I was just about to say that. You took that right out of my mouth. Yeah, so I mean, you bring up a lot of obviously great points, support being one of them, asking for help, right?
Yep.
So, we've tried to have conversations of, how do we grow as a community, a corporate community, right? How do we push things forward, especially in the climate that we're in today? And some of the sense that I get in talking to people within this company, outside of this company, is that there's almost this mindset of, well, if we bring people that don't look like us in, that means that we're taking away a spot from somebody else, right? Or not giving opportunity to somebody else based off of meritocracy. There's a big talk about that.
Yeah.
How have, as a leader, have you addressed this, and what have you seen come of that?
Yeah, whenever I hear that excuse, and it's nothing more than an excuse in my opinion of saying, if I bring somebody in, I'm just doing it to check a box. And what I've argued with is you're right. I don't want to be a double box. I don't want to be hired because I am a Latina, right? I don't hire me for that, but don't deny me for it either. So I'm very vocal about that. And then what I go through and how I've been able to really reinforce is like I'm not hiring somebody just because they're black or they're brown or they come from China or Ireland. That's not why I'm hiring them. Do they have the right skill set? Do they have the right attitude? And the piece that we can get away from this, well, I'm taking away from this job or the other, is if you only get the opinions from one, you're only ever going to grow as big as that point of view. Same thing is happening when we think of how the AI models are being built,
Drink right.
right? Right now, 99% of all the engineers and folks that are building this, whether you use ChatGPT, whether you use Claude, whether you use Perplexity, any of those that you're using it, the logic that's being built is predominantly by white males or Indian males. So do you think you're getting the perspectives of black, brown, purple, orange, green, binary, non-binary, gay, not gay? No, you're not, because you're getting it from this view. And so the argument I have is like I'm not taking away from someone, but rather I'm expanding my point of view to make sure that I can continue to grow in the markets and continue to gain revenue and gain market share and gain perspective. So in the world of corporate, it doesn't matter if you're talking about diversity or you're talking about sustainability or whatever it is. In order for them to listen, you got to speak their language. And the executives that are making the decisions only speak one language only, and it's universal. I don't care where you are in the world. So remember this. They only want to know, is it making me money? Is it saving me money? Or is it costing me money? That is it. I don't care how you want to phrase anything. If you want to talk about diversity, well, if you bring in a different perspective, you're going to tap into a new market. You get a new market, you can gain more revenue. You gain more revenue, you're going to gain market share. Gain market share, you're going to get shareholders to be happy. That's why they're going to listen, right? So, and if it's sustainability, same thing. So, whatever it is, and I hate saying this, I genuinely do hate it, but this is the world that we're in, that the people that are making the decision, the ones that are going to help what we want to happen, they don't speak that one language. So we got to speak their language. We're going to play their game with them. And that's how I'm able to get through
There's a lot of truth bombs that were just dropped right there.
it.
I don't know if anyone could see me, but I was sipping my tea real hard, real hard.
That's a lesson that I've learned when I first came into this world of sustainability I've taken on way more. I said I was bored. Don't ever say you're bored. Note to self, don't ever say, well, I was bored. I really was. And as I was trying to get them to recognize the importance of sustainability, because I don't have a background in it, but I do want to make the world a better place for my son, right? I kind of want him to have an environment to be in, when he's in his 30s, right? I didn't want to hear about it. Like, la, 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 yeah, yeah, yeah. Butterfly rainbows, hippie tree hugger. That's how they looked at it. It's genuinely how they looked at it. But when I flipped it and I started talking about how they could use these retired assets to generate new cells to then take the parts to offset, I started talking business. Boom, boom. Perky ears, they're listening, they're all in, they're investing in this. So, it's all about the money. And it's sickening to me. It genuinely is sickening to me because corporations have prioritized profit over people, no doubt. It's very clear. Well, then we can play that same game to make sure that people are driving the profits, but in the right way. So that was a very long-winded answer, Michelle, to what you were saying there, but that's how I'm able to help bring in the different perspectives that we need to bring in, that I'm not just hiring, or we don't just need to hire someone because we want to check the box. And we're not taking away from one part because we're bringing in that, but rather we're broadening the opportunities for us to continue to gain market share.
Yeah. And I mean, you see that over and over again. It's been said, it's not a secret,
Yeah,
right? So, in your opinion, what it's like one thing that senior leaders can do differently starting today, starting
right
right
now.
now, that would make those rooms feel like they belong to everyone versus having that one way of thinking mentality. Like what can they do?
If you are a leader and you are someone that is within the common class that you see there, I'm going to use, again, no, nothing against, any Caucasian whites or anything like that, but that is predominantly what you see in these decision-making rooms. Take a step back and look. Does this look like I'm bringing in other points of view, or am I in my echo chamber? Ask yourself that. Am I in an echo chamber here where I'm seeing people that are going to be in that group think of everybody looking and nodding with it? And am I bringing that in? Right. So challenge, be an ally from that perspective of, again, not just because you want to say you're being diverse and equitable. No, no, am I bringing in different perspectives that's going to help us get, progress, right? From a financial standpoint, from an overall equitable standpoint, and just representing the communities we're a part of, right? So ask that question and get the courage, have the courage to ask that question and say, hey, maybe we need to bring in other fresh perspectives. And if you are the minority and you're in that room, you need to be vocal about it and remind it and not be afraid to do that. It's uncomfortable as hell, not gonna lie. It's very uncomfortable, especially when you're the only one. But I joke with my boss all the time, what are you gonna do, fire me? It's like I come from nothing, man. I literally come from nothing. I know what it is to have to figure out I only have $20 in the account. Am I gonna put gas or am I gonna eat? I've been there. So remember that. Our resilience is our strength, but our culture is our superpower. So seriously, what is the worst that can happen? They fire you? We'll go work at Costco. I'll go check a receipt all day long. And I will be the best damn receipt checker they've ever seen in their life, right? I'll check a receipt and I'll be like, do you have your ID card to come in? We're resilient. We'll figure it out. But until we start challenging comfortably, being uncomfortable with that challenge, when we're in those spaces, it's going to be difficult to have others that look like us in there. So we have to vocalize. And you don't have to be a jackass about it either. It's not like you'd be like, hey, how come I'm the only brown one in here? No, but maybe bring it in, phrase it in a way like, hey, maybe we should consider, or hey, let's look about, doing some research on this area, or this person who happens to be, someone that's black, brown, Asian, purple, orange, green, whatever. Hey, let's bring them in and get their thoughts on it, kind of see their perspective. Encourage it in here. There's ways that you can do that. So, but you have to vocalize it on both sides, whether you're the minority or the majority in the room, you have to amplify it and vocalize.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. But I also do see the fear
Oh yeah.
that of repercussion, right? Fear of repercussion for those that are of the, black or
The
brown
majority.
persuasion, right? But also the fear of allies to say something,
Yeah.
right? Because maybe they feel like, well, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? I don't want to get in trouble. So, what are some like small ways? Because obviously, we would love it if everyone stood on the hill and like shouted, right? But that's not where we're at this
Yep.
point, especially with the environment we're living in today. So, what are just some small ways, some small wins that maybe individuals can do that work for a company that maybe will start to help push leadership in the right direction?
Yeah, I think, and it's fair. There's fear about all of that, and there's this whole series on TikTok that I've been following and that I've been going through of how this goes, the mindset that's in there, and a lot of the corporations that we're in today, the culture that we're or the environment we're in the country is leading off of fear. So it's very, very normal and it's very, very common right now that to have fear. And I want to reinforce that it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to feel that. I want you to feel those emotions because it's important because I think for far too long we've been told that emotions we're not supposed to feel. You're supposed to just squash it down. So
Mhm.
acknowledge and feel that that's a very real emotion, that fear. It's very, very real. But the small things you could do is maybe just, hey, so and so, like I'm gonna say Jason. Like I know Jason had this really good idea. Let me invite them into this one meeting or let me introduce them to someone. Something so small as introducing. Like I have this relationship, this person would let me at least introduce them so now they know another person that has a similar background to me than just myself, right? And then that person can introduce another one, encourage them to maybe come or bring them to one of your ERG events that you go to so they can start socializing and mingling and stuff like that. Go to a ERG event, like actually attend an ERG event and not just join it and get the emails, but rather participate in these actual events and encourage others to come with you and bring them with you. So we have more impact and power in numbers. Right, I always reference this cartoon that I watched, and it's hard to believe that it's a cartoon that left such an impact on me. But if you've ever seen A Bug's Life, you've seen A Bug's Life, right? There's a scene there. I mean, the grasshoppers are the bullies, right? The grasshoppers are like they're making all the ants do all the work for them and stuff like that, and they have to get all the grains so that way they're ready for the winter and stuff. So the ants are doing all this work, and this one ant is like, why are we doing everything? Why? And so this ant starts to question. This ant starts to challenge. This ant starts to do it. And so these grasshoppers are all hanging out, they're chilling in their boardroom, or all hanging around and stuff like that. And this one grasshopper is like, dude, what are you worried about? He's just one ant. What the hell? So then, he throws one grain at that ant and said, did that hurt? Or the grasshopper goes, no, it's just whatever. So he throws another. He's like, dude, why are you throwing that? He goes, but did it hurt? He goes, no. So then he throws thousands of them, right? He's like, hits them. And he goes, what the hell? Like it was overwhelming. He goes, if one ant can get all the other ants to recognize that they outnumber us, they outpower us, and they outsmart us, we're hosed. They don't say those exact words, but it says. So think about it. We're the ants. So remember that. Right now it's just you. But if you bring someone else with you to that meeting, to that room, to the event, and then there's another, and then there's another, and then there's another, there you go. So we have power in numbers, but the little steps you take. There's a book that I read called The Slight Edge. I don't remember the author, but I would encourage you to read that because that mindset of the slight edge is what I use every day. And it's basically, at a summary, is the small incremental steps, the small incremental changes that you make over time is what has the biggest impact. So again, attending an event, actually engaging in the events, bringing someone along with you and encouraging to say, hey, we should bring this person into this project. Or, hey, there's this opportunity that I think you should talk to this person. You don't have to be like me where I'm both. It's been years for me to get to this point. Now I have no fear. Like I said, what are you going to do? Fire me? That's where I'm at. Not everybody's there. I recognize that and I get that. but there's still those small things you can do that will have a huge impact and a lasting impact.
That's amazing. Gina, is there any questions I haven't asked you today that you would like to speak on?
Um, and I think we've covered quite a bit. As I think through, what started this and when you reached out and what it is, like the path to leadership, I would say that the biggest thing that has helped me to succeed, to be where I'm at and where I'm at, what I've done, I didn't have a magic spell book that said, hey, go do that. I didn't have a blueprint, right? I didn't have that luxury of saying, hey, go do this and then do this and do this, you'll be successful. That's why I wrote the book in an effort to try to help guide others to say, here's what I've learned along the way. Is it a catch-all? No. Is it going to answer every question? No. But what I can tell you that I've learned in my career as I think through leadership is what is the thing that you are really, really good at? What is the thing that you're really, really strong at? And build from that. So I use analogies of construction all the time. My daddy was a general contractor. He still is a general contractor. I now reference myself as a digital general contractor. I don't build houses, I build organizations, I build businesses, right? So I still have that same mindset. But when you're building a house, right, and you think through it, whether you're getting a modular home like a Palm Harbor home, a manufactured home, or you're building it from the ground up, each and every one of these requires a foundation. You need a solid foundation. So before you start picking paint colors, before you start trying to figure out what curtains you're going to hang on the wall, you need a foundation. So as you're thinking of your careers, you're thinking about the leadership, you're thinking of the things you want to do, what is your foundation? Because when you have that solid foundation, you can build from that. You can add as many, floors as you want, right? You can rearrange the walls and change things, but you need a solid foundation. And for me, that foundation has always been leadership. Like I said, at a very early age, I saw that in my father that I wanted to be in charge like him. So every role I've had in my career, I've always elevated and I've navigated towards a leadership role because that's my strength. I don't have to be the smartest one in the room. I don't have to be the sharpest one in the room, but I'm smart enough to recognize the people that are around me are the ones that are going to help me get there. So that's my leadership foundation. So whatever your foundation is, build on that. If you are the best project manager and you are just a badass at project management, that's your foundation. Because when you're a strong project manager, you can go into the medical field, you can go into the construction field, you can go into the lead, you can go anywhere because that's your strength, right? If you are great at process engineering, you can go anywhere. What's your foundation? When you identify that foundation, that makes you untouchable because that's how your confidence is and that's what's going to help you lead. So find that, whatever your foundation is, and build from there.
Amazing. Well, I have a million other questions I can ask you, so I'm going to have to bring you back definitely. But I
Anytime.
want to leave these last 10 minutes to open it up to our participants to ask a few questions. So we do have a time for a few. So if someone would raise their hand, if they have a
Don't be
question.
shy. And yeah, I'm an open book. If I don't know, I'll figure it out. But ask me whatever, please.
Jay, go ahead and take yourself off mute.
Hi, Gina.
Hi.
Longtime fan. Really excited to see you again. I do have a question. So like, if you don't know what your foundation is, like, does your book kind of like help draw that out of you? And then also, second question, like, where do you find your book?
So yes, I do think or at least I hope my book helped guide to that. Am I going to tell you specifically this is what you need? No, it's not. But what the book does and how I wrote it and shaped it was to have you think through the different things that you will encounter along your journey. Again, each one of our journeys is going to be different. But there's exercises in there that make you take a step back and reflect. If you could change one thing, if you could do this thing, and it helps you come to that point to where you will have your aha moment of, well, hey, this is what I like, or hey, this is what I want to do or this is where I want to go. I think the thing that'll also come out of that is that there's no one size fits all in any of this as you're going through it. So don't compare my journey to your journey or Michelle's journey or any, all of ours are different. It's like when you put in directions in either Google Map or Apple Map, whatever you use, you can put the destination of where you want to go, but each one of us can, it's going to give you different paths. You can go through the toll road, you can go the scenic route, you can go, each one of us has that. And I do, in my book, I do try to give you that point of view and perspective. Second answer, where can you get it? You can get it at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Target, online. You can get
Oh,
it
damn.
all of them online. And or you can go to GinaCano.com, and I should have a link there to my store where you can access it there. And even some of the merch that I'm building up with some of my own little Gina-isms, the random shit that I say, that I've put into merch. So starting to work on building that brand out more.
Nice. I really
I
appreciate.
included the link to your book. I
Thank
grabbed the
you.
one off of Amazon so that everybody can go ahead and start to purchase it.
Heck
Yes,
yeah.
I would love that.
I really appreciate you saying that part about the, not everyone's journey is going to be the same because it always felt to me that each of our journeys are very unique and nuanced to ourselves, but also they're part of which empower us in our own experience, in our own knowledge.
Yeah, I think in the world that we're in, especially in the world of social media, where we're exposed to so much at one time, that you see people posting these elaborate vacations or they're doing this, and you're like, they're the same age as me. I should be doing the same thing, or no, it only shows us a moment in time. Social media is just a snapshot in time. You don't know what's happening behind the scenes. You don't know what it is, right? So don't compare your journey to anybody else's because that's your story. That's
Mhm.
your story that you're writing for you. And, I'm going to go back to one of the questions you asked, Michelle, of, how could we help or how could each of you help? Share your story because you'd be surprised. There's somebody there that can relate to it, that they may just need that one kind of, oh, wow, somebody else has experienced that. And that might give them that little bit of courage that they need to take that first step or ask that question or do that thing. But you only do that by connecting, by getting involved and actually socializing. I was joking with Michelle the other day. I was like, I don't want to be too people-y, but we still got to be people-y in a certain way, right? So
Awesome. Thank you.
good question. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Don't be shy. Here's your opportunity to learn. There's 56 people on here. Someone has to have a question that they want to ask.
Or I just mesmerize them so much that they're just like taking it all in. So somebody has to have a question. Or ask me what my favorite food is. My favorite food is burgers. I love a good cheeseburger. That is like my favorite of all time. Gosh, I love cheeseburgers and stuff. In fact, true story. One of And me, so random in my life of things I do. I used to have, me and my friend, we used to have called it Cheeseburger Club. We had a cheeseburger club. I don't know why we called it a cheeseburger club until this day, until he went too far in his political thing. I had to separate myself from him. But he would call me Cheese, and I would call him Cheeseburger too. That was our nicknames. Unfortunately, he fell down the deep political track that we were two polar opposites. I'm like, I didn't know how to do it, but we did have a cheeseburger club.
It looks like there's actually a question. Martha, can you come off of mute? Do you have the opportunity to do that to ask your question?
Hi, yes. Thank you for taking the time to talking to us. It was very interesting. I just something that you mentioned like that stuck with me, so I just wanted to see if you could expand on that, on how you redefine failure and change your perspective to
Yeah.
see it more as a learning experience instead. I
Yeah.
think that's something that I struggle with, and I just want to see if you have any tips or advice.
Totally, totally. And that's a great question. So, like I mentioned, prior to hearing the phrase that I heard earlier in October was, there's no such thing as fail, but it's just the first attempt in learning. Before I had that acronym of how I was thinking, I've always looked at any time I made a mistake was that what can I learn from that mistake? right? If I go through my if you look through my book and one of the Gina-isms I say, there's no such thing as we're looking for progress, not perfection, right? We're always looking for progress, not perfection. And if you think and you have the mindset of everything has to be perfect before you take that leap or you try to do something, and if it's not perfect and it doesn't go as you've laid out in your mind, then you think you failed. But if you switch your mindset and say, hey, I'm just looking for progress. I don't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be exact. And I might make a mistake, but what can I learn from that? What is it that, the lesson that's coming from that, right? Just like when I, had my first attempt at college in my 0.57 GPA, I learned from there that 8 o'clock in the morning classes didn't make sense for me because I'm not a morning person, never have, never will be. I do not do mornings. All right. Lesson from there. Let's try a different coursework, right? Then when I went to the next college and I went through, I also realized that I don't like physics. I do, but I don't. And I also learned that I am not a fan of some of this boring stuff. I'm a hands-on person, so anything that required just a lot of like in theory, I didn't like it. I really learned I don't like finance. So I know finance, I just don't like finance. So, and I failed that class, by the way. I did fail the class because I didn't like it. I didn't find the thing that worked for me. But Martha, what ultimately came from that is I realized I can learn from that experience of what worked and what didn't work, what I should try next time, and maybe change the other time. Man, I have blown some presentations that I've done to executives, when I'm meeting in front of them. I mean, I'm complete like, oh man, like I thought I had to turn in my badge kind of failures, right, of presenting. But I use those. I'm like, okay, why did that message not resonate for him? Why did we drop this? What was it that I need to do differently? So if you just change that mindset, Martha, and not look at it like, man, I messed up, but rather, what can I take away from here so I don't do that again? It helps you feel more comfortable in taking that risk and realizing again, it was just your first attempt in learning.
Thank you so much, Gina.
Sure.
We're gonna have time for one more question. I see Jasmine has her hand up.
I do. So thank you so much, Gina. I love your necklace, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, from a mentoring standpoint, how have you personally created space for people whose potential isn't obvious on paper, maybe?
Am I frozen?
You're
Oh, you
frozen. We
were.
didn't
I
hear
was about
anything,
right when it was about to get good.
right?
Am I still frozen? Just kidding.
Nope, you're good now.
I'm good. So I'll go back and I was saying there's a difference between mentoring and sponsoring. I don't know if you heard that part, Jasmine, but mentoring is I have a bunch of mentors and I have a bunch of sponsors, right? Mentors actually are helping, like kind of coaching me and asking the questions and stuff. And when I mentor people, I like to challenge them to look beyond the now, but the art of the possible, right? That's what you look for in mentors. And you want those that are going to be the truth tellers, right? You want those that are going to help you feel uncomfortable as you're going through the things. And so that's what I look for to help people. Like if you and I were to be mentoring, and as I get to know you and I build a relationship with you, it's important that you come in with the things that you are seeking guidance on and not expecting the mentor to uncover that for you. So that's number one when I'm building that relationship. It's not me going to sit there and tell you, Jasmine, this is what you need to work on, but rather, here is what I'm doing, this is what I'm working on, but you got to come in prepared, right? So your mentor can help you navigate and guide through that. But if you come in just like, hey, how you doing? Then we're not mentoring, we're just shooting the shit, right? So when you come in for a mentoring session or you look for a mentor, you want those that don't have the same as you always, right? You're going to want some that are in maybe the same industry, but look for somebody outside of your industry. Like if you're in the medical field, look for somebody in the tech space so you get a different perspective, right? If you are in the construction space, look for somebody that's in the medical space, right? You want people that are going to give you those different perspectives. And then when you find those that are in the same space as you want those that are going to be truth tellers that are going to challenge you. But the most important thing, you got to come to your sessions prepared with here's what I'm looking for, here's the support I need, so they can help you uncover the strength that you may not realize is there.
I love that. There's an exchange, definitely. I've noticed
Yes.
that sometimes it's just not this exchange, it's hold my hand. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, what do I do? I'm like, well, what do you want to do? I don't know. Well, let's start figuring that out. And I have a very set, very clear and strict things. Just like we were saying, it's all about the money. Alistair mentioned that in one of the chat, the in the chat here, as I was saying, how the executives think. Well, my time is valuable too. My time is money. And if I'm going to put time aside to invest in mentoring you, my expectations are very clear that you're coming in and you're going to utilize the time with me, because if not, I'm wasting your time and you're wasting my time. So it's an investment. Just like if you're spending money on, new clothes or a car or whatever, time is money. And so you have to be respectful of that mentor-mentee relationship and come in prepared. As well as if you are mentoring, you need to come in prepared with if they sent you stuff as a pre-wire. So it's a two-way thing. It's an absolute relationship.
Thank you for that.
No, yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you so, so much, Gina. Once again, amazing. Love
Thank
spending
you.
time with you. Love having you come here and speak to our members of DIG and the Terrans. And as I said, I have so many questions that I wrote down that I haven't even gotten to. So if you would have us, I would love to have you back sometime in the future.
Sure.
Maybe we can do this again.
I would be honored. I enjoy it. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for listening. And I would love to get your feedback. Those of you that do get copies of the book, I would love to have a chit chat about that, what you learned and what it tapped into for yourself. And, keep being disruptive, right? Keep going out there. Be the change in the world that you want to see, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to get through this nightmare that we're living in right now in this current world. But the good thing is it's not forever, right? What's that saying? It's always darkest before dawn. We're in the dark right now, but the light will come. And the more you vocalize, the more you advocate for yourself and others, the more we come together like the ants, the sooner we start to see the light.
Amazing. And for all of the DIG team leads, I did go ahead and purchase Gina's book for you all. So you team leads are going to get a copy, a signed copy of her book. And I have two copies that are also going to be going out to those. I'm going to choose them random that stayed to the end of this presentation. So there's 39 people on this call. So two of you are also going to get this book as well. So I will notify you in email as to who those two people are. So congratulations. And again, thank you, Gina. It's
Thank
always
you.
a pleasure to talk to you. I can talk to you for hours, and I'm sure you'll probably want to end your day and go get some wine. So,
I'm looking forward to it. And make sure you post pictures with your book on your socials and tag me on it. So that would be pretty awesome for me. So thank you again for the opportunity. And for those of you that do celebrate the upcoming holiday, enjoy it. And even if you don't celebrate the holiday, just enjoy time with your friends and your family. Take a chance to recharge.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. You take
Bye,
care.
everybody.
Thanks. Have a
Bye-bye.
great day.
Thank you.
Bye.